Greetings and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Chelsea Lambert of Lex Tech Review, and I also have on the line with me Kelly Street, Marketing Director for Attorney Sync. Welcome, Kelly.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here with you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And just a few quick housekeeping notes. Today's session is a day in the life of a marketing manager. And Lex Tech Review has been created to provide resources and the resources, reviews, webinars, articles that all help train and promote the use of technology and marketing services inside of a law firm. So I'm uniquely excited to have this session today because my background is in solo and small firm technology, also working as a consultant with the Chicago Bar or Practice Management Advisor with the Chicago Bar Association, and as a VP of Marketing, where we have lived this every day. And that's the reason why I invited Kelly to co-host today's course. Kelly is the Marketing Director for Attorney Sync, a trusted digital marketing agency that helps lawyers get clients online. They accomplish this through integrated legal marketing, reputation management, website services, and social media. You can reach out to Kelly. She's always very, very cheerful and happy to help. I'm really excited to share this with her because we have lived a lot of the same things. And when I talk to law firms, especially those that are either solo or a couple people and they're looking to grow, or they have grown quite a bit and they're wondering, is it time to bring somebody in-house? This is a conversation that comes up quite a bit. So a day in the life of a marketing manager, and what we're going to talk about today, is really what is the role and purpose of having this person either on staff, or what Kelly can also speak to is how that role evolves and lives when you don't have it in-house, and that role lives inside of a potential marketing agency. If you have questions during the session, please feel free to enter them into the chat box or the question pane. I will moderate those either during the session, or we'll say we do have some time at the end for Q&A. So Kelly, let's go ahead and jump in. Maybe you could start with just kind of sharing a little bit of background about yourself. I know you've got over 10 years of experience in sales and marketing, just to kick it off.
Yes, I say 10 plus years because I grew up in a small family business, working with customers and doing the client development, sort of baby marketing kinds of things, like helping my parents pick out ads to put in the local newspaper. But more formally have been in actual marketing for 9+ years, doing client development and a variety of marketing things. Mostly working with small businesses. That's kind of my passion, partly because I grew up in one, and partly because I really like to do a variety of marketing and sales and client development roles all in one. I consider myself kind of a Jill of all trades.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And, I didn't really even realize this, that we had that in common, but I share the same thing of, growing up in a small business, family business, and kind of doing everything from the sales to the marketing to, delivery. And that's really something that I think is a great way to preface today's conversation, is that marketing is so much a form of sales, and the two go hand in hand. And when they're disjointed, or you don't have the communication between marketing and sales, which is the role of a marketing manager, is to be that communication vehicle to not only bring in the prospects, but then also work with the sales team or the attorneys or the intake staff to say, hey, what are the quality of these leads? Are we bringing the right ones through the door? So having that background and that entrepreneurial spirit, I'm sure, has served you tremendously well in your career.
Yeah, I like to think so. And it, just to reiterate your point, it absolutely does make all the difference to have that collaborative effort between sales, marketing, and then the people who are actually doing the day-to-day running of the business and the operations, the lawyers, the front desk, whoever else you may have in your firm.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just a couple talking points for us. I'd love to hear your perspective on, the role of a marketing manager. My experience in both the corporate environment and in the law firm environment is that, it's not always just about making it rain, and having a million leads that are, coming through. It's really to drive quality leads to the firm, but also the marketing message should keep the bad ones away. So if you're a family law practice, you shouldn't be getting leads for, let's say, criminal defense, because you're just like generally blasting out messages that you're a law firm. And then also to support other areas of the business with content and collateral. I feel that marketing is a very, it's a service department. It's very much a service department in the way that IT is a service department. We support sales, and we also support giving things to current clients, updating the website if we have a client portal, producing materials that are helpful to them during this, what could potentially be a very difficult time in their life. And that always, which is a theme throughout this whole presentation, is a profit generating position in the conversions that you see from the leads that come through. What are your thoughts on the overall role and purpose of a marketing manager within a firm?
Yeah, I think, of course, everything you have listed here is all great things to basically the kind of like overview from high and above. And I think depending on what your goal or your outcome is, or the person you hire, you're going to want to focus in more on different areas of these things you have listed. If you hire someone who's more focused on social media, you want to have that your social media grow, then you want to focus more on those efforts. If you hire someone who is more into web design and doing the things you were talking about, Chelsea, like updating your client portal, then you're going to see results from that and maybe get higher customer reviews because you're providing more of those kinds of services. But I think a marketing manager overall, the best approach is kind of someone who's overseeing all of these different things. Someone who, like you said, is kind of working with your sales team, someone who is working with the lawyers at the firm to either help create content or to manage the content, and then working with getting your internet and social media presence out there.
Yep. And so on this next slide, we have, kind of jumping into what that tipping point is, right? So when does it actually make sense to hire a marketing manager in-house? And you have the opportunity to learn and see, all of the law firms all over the country that Attorney Sync services, which I would imagine range from, solo attorneys all the way up to very successful, 50 or 100-person firms. Can you give us some insights into when is that tipping point? When does it make sense to hire a marketing manager and bring them in-house inside your law firm from what you've seen?
Yeah. So first off, if you are spending, as one of the lawyers at the firm, or anybody at the firm is spending most of their time each day managing social media, writing blog posts, managing the website and search terms, then you are either working with clients or doing the job they were hired to do. That's time to hire someone. If your firm has multiple lawyers and staff, you should probably have room in the budget for marketing staff or marketing efforts, specifically set aside for marketing. And if you don't like or understand marketing, definitely time to hire someone or outsource your efforts.
That's a great point. I love that last one, especially if you don't like or understand marketing, outsource or hire. I hire based on what I write down every day on my to-do list and the things that habitually or chronically do not get done. So it's like, okay, I clearly don't want to do that, or I clearly am not motivated to doing that. Bookkeeping might be one of those things that can be, outsourced. And so it's like when you find yourself kind of punting it or procrastinating or just not getting to it, or it's something that you don't, look forward to or enjoy, it's always best to look to hire somebody in-house. And then also it's like that time value question of if you can bill X amount per hours, or if you could sit in a room and in your office and close appointments and leads that are scheduled for you, or that have come through the funnel through your website or other marketing activities. Is that the best use of your time? Is the best use of your time generating the business, or converting the business, or from a business development and then an actual execution conversion perspective?
Yeah, if you think about it this way, if you can hire a part-time freelance marketing manager or a marketing assistant to do all of the things like content creation, managing social media at $20 an hour, think about how much you bill for your time and $20 an hour and weigh those out and what makes sense. It's probably hiring that person and just cutting a check each month for $1,000 or something around there in order to get that off of your plate.
Absolutely. And then the next kind of transition point for us would be talking about whether you have the capacity to manage that person in-house, or if an agency relationship is what that could potentially turn into. So let's say that you recognize that you need someone, and it's either freelancer or an agency, or hey, I'm going to bring this person in-house. Do you have time to train them for them to be your liaison? Because even in a situation where they might be working with someone like Attorneys Think or another marketing provider in the space, there is a need, depending upon the size of your firm, the number of leads that you're getting per month, how aggressively you want to grow, where you still have to hire a marketing manager to be the liaison, working with that agency or working with that freelancer if the managing partner doesn't have the bandwidth to manage those avenues. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference between the in-house staff, and I can add my own comments there, and then also what it's like if you go the complete agency route?
Yeah, so of course I've been both. I've been an in-house marketing manager that's kind of doing all of the things, and then I also currently am part of an agency. And the right answer for what you need for you depends a lot on the skills you need, the budget you have, and like you were talking about, Chelsea, how much you want to manage. And your in-house person, that's going to be someone who needs to have skills in a lot of areas, or you need to have the budget for them to be able to manage people who have the skills that you are looking for to be able to handle your online marketing, to handle your budget, handling content creation, SEO, website design. There's such a variety of things that a marketing manager is going to need to either be able to do or to manage, that it's rare to find all of those things in one person. I mean, I'm not skilled in all of those areas myself. I would never claim to be a website designer, but I have had to self-teach a lot of the other areas that I didn't learn in school, and that is part of the fun of being an in-house person, but comes with challenges as well. And so, like I said, if they're only skilled in one area, you may end up spending a ton of additional money outsourcing all of the other elements. You might get lucky though. So I definitely wouldn't rule out having an in-house person and maybe finding that diamond in the rough who can do all of the things.
Yeah, I definitely refer to those people as the unicorns of the industry. I've been, marketing manager earlier on in my career, and then I have hired marketing managers for my teams in the corporate environment, and now actually for my own business. And it's very much searching for a needle in a haystack, because when it comes down to budget, if you look at the overall span of what a marketing team looks like, I think that there's a massive amount of misconception to what a true marketing team that an agency would provide delivers compared to a marketing manager that lives inside of your office. And we'll show examples of a couple of job ads to just give everybody a scope. And we're, also this is going to be a file that I'll put up online for all of our attendees and registrants afterwards. So you guys can use these marketing manager job ads or just qualification lists. But when you look at what the spread of a true marketing team is, you have typically either a VP of marketing and a marketing manager, and then you also have a graphic designer who's responsible for the website. Sometimes they don't even do websites, so then you need a developer. If you get lucky, they can do both. Then you also need a copywriter. Then you need somebody who's looking at SEO, AdWords. And so to find, that right there, that's 5 people. And that doesn't even count the money that you need to spend on your ad budget. So building out a true marketing team is where, if you're looking at going that aggressive and really dominating your market, that's where an agency relationship might be more advantageous. If you're just getting started, or this is something where you're using an agency and you want a liaison or a manager in-house, having someone who is proficient or knowledgeable in each of those areas but is not an expert where that's their job all day, right? Like you and I, I'm sure, could jump into WordPress and do what we need to do, but are we going to functionally design a site and submit, the sitemap to Google and do all of the indexing and all of that kind of stuff? Like, no, I will definitely break something. So it's that's really where I think it's, what stage of growth are you in? What responsibilities and what do you need this person to really do? We're going to talk about daily duties and reporting. And if this is a marketing manager in-house, they are often a liaison to that agency that lives outside. Like, for example, even though, I'm capable of doing a lot of those things, I would prefer to hire a PR agency to manage public relations for certain projects that I do, as opposed to me doing all of that in-house, because it's not an effective use of my time. I could be generating leads or doing business development in other areas that will bring in cash faster for the firm, and it's more cost effective to outsource those things. So just a couple different scenarios there.
Yeah, and then one other point along with the agency is, an agency will often have people in all of these different areas. So instead of you hiring someone who can do all of these things, an agency will have, any number of clients. And so they're not necessarily just working on your things, but they have the skills in all of these different areas. So depending on the level of person you're hiring, cost could be a little bit lower to work with an agency overall budget-wise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And I just wanted to add that I know for Attorney Sync, we have found that our clients, at least who can have somebody who's in-house and have the agency and work with us, they end up getting the highest success rates because they have somebody who is, working with us, managing us, and then kind of taking that barrier out. So the lawyers don't even need to have to deal with the marketing efforts on that realm.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Kelly. Actually, it's a perfect segue into this daily duties. And marketing is only as effective as the systems and processes and management and reporting that you have internally. I mean, I have seen situation after situation arise where there were tons of leads generated, and the firm, what happened to all these leads? Oh, well, we sent them an email at the end of the month. Like, for leads that were 20 days old, it's like, what systems and processes, what follow-up, who's holding people inside the firm accountable? How are the people on the phone treating the leads? Is there information coming back about lead scoring? And lead scoring is something that I talk a lot about. Basically, what we're looking for in marketing is not just how many potential new clients can we push through the funnel, but what is the quality of those clients? Like, marketing is also that defender, that knight with a shield that stands outside the front door that protects, the firm from all of the bad clients that are, aren't in your wheelhouse and don't want to pay you. And, you can't weed them all out, but if you do the messaging correctly, it can defer a lot of those bad eggs away. So just, I mean, daily projects and tasks that you're going through, content creation and outreach to media, which falls into kind of that public relations bucket, research on, just continually always learning of ways that you can improve and hit your numbers. Marketing strategy and planning, we were talking about that just right before we hopped on the call for 2018, because we're in that time of year where everybody's laying out their budgets and what they're doing. And then lastly, that reporting, which can happen almost, at an hourly level. That's a little bit obsessive, but leads should be reported on a daily basis. And then those reports should be reviewed on a minimum at a weekly basis. So tell me a little bit about, what your day is like.
Yeah, so all of those things. And so my day kind of combines, I do a lot of writing, so writing social media, blog posts, articles, along with that, reaching out to other people in the field, because being an authoritative figure in whichever field you are, if you're a family lawyer, being considered online an authoritative figure in that field is vital. Recording podcasts, a little plug for Guy Sakalakis and I, our new Attorney Sync podcast, Clienting. Be on the lookout for it. We're working on recording that. I spend a lot of time doing research and learning about new trends and changes in SEO and marketing. It is so important. Things change so quickly that you have to stay upfront and know what's happening and know what's changing. And then, like I told you before we hopped on here, Chelsea, I've spent the last 2 months on taking a lot of time getting our branding together. We just got a new logo at Attorney Sync that's very exciting, and that took a lot of time to put together. And then getting our 2018 marketing plan completed. If I was more of a web designer, graphic designer, this could also include website management and updates. And then there's a lot to do with analyzing your website, analyzing your SEO results, analyzing your pay-per-click ads, and testing new ads and seeing what's working and amplifying what is working and taking away what's not.
Great. And that's a perfect example of where those 40 hours go. Right? Like 40 hours is actually a lot of time during the week if it's used effectively. And the A/B testing alone of just constantly, okay, this worked, and how can we, it's about points of percentages, right? So if we can get a 0.5% increase, if we can get a 0.2% increase, and you just continually improve even at those fractional levels, they result in real dollars. And it takes constant attention and it takes constant management. I think anybody who's in a competitive practice area can appreciate that. Family law, personal injury, criminal defense. I mean, these are all areas of law where if you are not constantly adjusting and managing your marketing and watching it, a competitor down the street or across the street is going to grab those leads from you because they are. And so that's another motivating factor to bring that marketing manager role in-house, or to work with an agency when you're no longer seeing those gains and you're no longer seeing those results come up, continue to improve, or worse, if they're going the opposite direction, then you definitely want to intervene and look for some new options. On the same topic, critical personality traits and skills that a marketing manager should have. So, I mean, we, both of us grew up in like entrepreneurial families where, I mean, I don't know about you, but in my family, it's like, if you could walk, you could work. And so you just kind of like grow up in an environment where you're spending weekends at the office doing stuff for your parents, or you're, doing like payroll or other things like as you're growing up alongside of your homework. So it's ingrained that you just have these, proactive things because you know that there's a consequence of, not being able to play with your friends if you don't get them done. So,
yeah,
you should be able to, what are some of those critical personality traits and skills that a marketing manager should have. So let's say that they go forward, and this can even be used to evaluate an agency. But if you're going to bring somebody in-house, that marketing manager, that liaison, what are some of like the top things that they need to be able to do, critical responsibilities that they're going to have?
I definitely think writing for me is a really big piece of this, whether it's writing a Facebook ad or writing an entire blog post. They need to be able to write and get the content out in a timely manner, like you have here. Staying organized, that is so important. I honestly am not a naturally organized person, but I have taught myself organizational skills and have a lot of systems in place in order to be able to manage all of the elements of my job, of my personal life, and get everything done in the time that it needs to be done. Because one thing I know that you understand, Chelsea, is that in marketing, timelines are so important. When you're working on getting a trade show together, having the timeline so that your booth can be done on time. When you have your content calendar, making sure that you're regularly putting out content. All of those things take organizational skills. And so your marketing manager definitely has to be organized. And along with that, paying attention to the details, making sure that, with the things they're writing, that the grammar is proper. But not only that it's proper grammar, that people will be able to understand and read it and connect with it. Curious and willing to learn is huge. Like I said, I spend quite a bit of my day researching and learning, and you have to be someone who is hungry to learn in order to stay fresh and be relevant in the marketing world. And that goes along with forward thinking for sure. You have to be looking to the future, see what's on the horizon, following people who are relevant in the field and who are also forward thinking. Chelsea, I know you and I both really enjoy Gary Vaynerchuk and and Russell Brunson, and those are two guys who, in the sales marketing world, who are just always thinking of how can I improve and how can I kind of whittle down to get the best method. And if you're interviewing someone, see who they find inspiring. And if you don't know them, look them up and go, oh, okay, this person, is always looking ahead to the future and really knows what they're talking about. So if they're looking to them as inspiration, they probably know a little bit about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And that mindset is so key. I mean, I think that in general, I mean, whether it's like working a trade show booth or talking to a lead over the phone, if you don't have the mindset where, like rejection is part of life. And one of my favorite quotes, like it's everywhere, and in the same family of like Gary Vaynerchuk and Russell Brunson, and there's Grant Cardone. It's like, even gravity, a Grant Cardone quote is, even gravity is like the purest form of rejection, just like keeping you attached to the earth. And so you have to constantly fight and look for opportunities for that improvement, and just your mindset and your personality, knowing that every day, like sometimes the numbers aren't going to be there. And we are the ones that have to answer to that, right? Like if I go and I spend 1,000 or 100,000 even on a marketing campaign and it doesn't deliver, we better know why, and we better know what we're going to do about it, right? Because that's cash out the door that could have funded a position or something else. So that metrics-driven approach in all areas, coupled with a mindset of resilience and the willingness to learn and to find new avenues. And I mean, the Google algorithm changes how many times a year, right? So it's like you hit the reset button and figure it out again.
Yes.
Which is another reason, to consider bringing a marketing manager in-house, because there's just so many moving pieces. And look at how many new social networks we have now that didn't even exist 3 years ago. Like Snapchat, and now Pinterest is like pretty prevalent, so prevalent. And when social media started, it was just Facebook and Twitter, and we thought that was going to kind of be, and now we have all of these other networks. So constantly learning all of that is so, so important.
Yeah.
Reporting, so let's get into the metrics because I really want everybody on the call to walk away with the understanding that this is a profit generating position, period. That if you are hiring someone to be your marketing manager liaison, that should be a role that not only pays for itself, but then increases revenue in any of the areas that they are involved with. And in order to do that, you have to know your numbers. You have to know everything about them. And so, I know that this is a world that you and I both live in. Can you share just kind of what they should be looking at on a daily, weekly, and a monthly basis?
Yeah, I think your social media engagement, so your Facebook, your Instagram. If you use Twitter for business, look at those metrics as well. Google AdWords Analytics, and I say those are all daily, weekly, and monthly. If you have a slow day on your website, don't throw everything in and go, oh my gosh, this isn't working. These are things that need to build over time, and you have to give all of your marketing efforts time to work. But you do want to be kind of continually aware of how things are changing and seeing whether, okay, our AdWord for, family lawyer Memphis, that's, we're getting a lot of hits from our website from that search. So we want to make sure that we keep that on the website. Do we want to niche down and get things to be a little bit more clarified there? You kind of want to check all those things all the time to see what people are searching for and what you would need to do or what you can do for your site to update and add and change. Plugins that could help you, Yoast. I know my boss, Geese Sakalakis, talks about Yoast quite a bit, that one is very helpful to offer help for keywords and metrics for your site. And then, Chelsea, I will let you take the lead scoring and conversion. But one thing I just want to say from this is, like you've said, Chelsea, if you don't have the sales on the back end to help with the leads coming in, you're not going to be successful.
No, that is something that I've lived for the last 12 years in every role that I've ever been in. And I think what has given me a competitive advantage in the marketing space is that I started pretty much, like working for your family, you're always in sales, right? So it's like you're going to sell somebody something. And that's, if you don't have the intake team, invest in it. If the leads are going to your cell phone and you're meeting with clients 4 times a day, utilize a virtual receptionist service. The virtual receptionist services, we actually have a webinar coming up the week after, actually it's the week after next, on the utilizing virtual receptionist services to actually do your lead follow-up. So now organizations like Answer One and Call Ruby and Pat Live and Alert Communications will actually take your leads that are inbound, handle the conversion for you, and there's even outsourced lead conversion teams specifically for law firms. One of them is called Hero Conversion Technologies out of Dallas, or HCT, where they recruit, train, and hire the intake staff for your firm. They use your phone numbers, your email addresses, everything. It's just as if those 2 or 3 employees, or even you can start with 1, live in that office but are operating on behalf of your firm, and they track and hunt down all of those leads, schedule them for appointments, do the confirmation calls, follow up if they no show. And if you don't have that system in place, or you're not willing to train and invest in it, your marketing is only going to, in my opinion, return about 25% of what it could. And I use the 25% number because that's the fallout that you're going to have by not knowing the quality of those leads. I need salespeople that are talking to me, telling me, this lead is garbage. Like, this is just like, they don't even know who we are. They have no money. They don't, know anything about this. Like, they're a 7-year-old who was playing with their mom's phone, who submitted her contact information because the form auto-filled. It's like stuff like that. I need people to come and tell me that these things are happening, because otherwise the bleeding never stops. I think you can identify with this, is that a lot of the role of a marketing manager or a VP of marketing is to move the money. And you move money constantly, sometimes on a daily basis, because I only have a finite amount of budget to work with. And if it's not working over here and this other source is converting at 65%, I'm taking that money from source A and I'm moving it to source B, and my numbers are going to go up, because everything that I do in my role should be tied to performance, including my compensation, which is where we're going to wrap up today's session in just a little bit. But lead scoring and conversion is something where, if you don't have a constant dialogue with who's doing your marketing, or if you're not tracking those numbers yourself, like let's say you're a solo and you're doing everything, you're never going to know where your money's being wasted. You're just going to kind of have a hunch that it's not working out. And you're also not going to have any data on those A/B tests that you talked about earlier, where, hey, message A was actually producing much higher quality leads than message B, even though message B's traffic numbers are higher. I mean, you get into really granular details of testing, where sometimes it's the color of the page. I mean, when I was at Total Attorneys, when it was we were the largest consumer lead generation and marketing firm, pretty much in the country at that point, one of the highest producing pages was the ugliest one. It was like a hideous color. It had like a crazy hard, difficult form to fill out, but it produced the highest quality leads and the highest number of conversions out of anything that we did. So we left it, so it's those types of things where it might seem aesthetically pleasing or a good idea to go in a different direction, but the data doesn't lie. And so you have to have somebody constantly looking at the data, constantly measuring it, and the sales team in place to be communicating with you. And now it's like there's these great outsourced options, whether it's virtual receptionist, which would to me be like a level 1, or complete intake or contract services, which would be a level 2. And those are actually incredibly affordable, much less than you would pay to hire, maintain, train staff, and do payroll and benefits for an in-house intake team. Hands down, much less costly.
Yeah, and one last thing I just want to say about reporting is, if you're going to your Google Analytics account and everything is just so confusing, hop on over to a regular Google browser and look up the things you don't understand, because if you're not a marketing manager, if you're not a marketing manager who specializes in SEO, you may look at that and go, what? And just not be able to really take anything valuable away from it. So don't be scared. There are resources out there to help you kind of figure out what your analytics reports say. That's my last takeaway about reporting.
No, that is very much you also have to educate yourself in areas where it's not your thing. So I love that you added that. Hiring, our favorite part of finding a marketing manager, and also the part that makes you want to quit your job sometimes. Yeah, it's hiring, I can honestly say, is, like we touched on earlier, it's finding that unicorn. So we've gone through, the daily duties and responsibilities and personality traits. I'm going to pull over. Here we go. So I am showing now, this is an example of a marketing job description. And I actually have a couple of them in here. And so what, I just want to call out is that everything in here is a test, right? So we kind of have part-time marketing assistant job descriptions. I have a full-time underneath this. Job duties, be very clear and upfront about what you're expecting them to do. And I just want to talk about hiring in that, everybody on the call is going to get a copy of this. You'll have access to download. You go through the different pieces of software that they're going to need to use, marketing activities, in this case, if you're running an agency or if you're running an individual firm. essential duties. This is an example of a full-time qualifications. You've also got working knowledge of the following. AdWords, search engine, SEM is search engine marketing, and PPC is pay-per-click, often grouped together just in case. I know we got a lot of acronyms going on here. And then must-haves, written and verbal communication skills, going back to what Kelly said earlier, they have to be able to write. Writing and content in marketing is like the lifeblood of what you do, because you can't have an ad without words on it, right? So how are we going to get that out there? And then I like this applicant instructions. I actually borrowed this from a previous employer. Submit your resume with your name spelled backwards in the subject line and the role that you're applying for. And even I had to do this when I worked for this firm. And I thought at first it was like, what? Are you seriously asking me to spell my name backwards? It's a last stop on the job ad to see if they're paying attention, because one of the things that's so important is being detail oriented. You're producing marketing material, you're going to have to look for typos, you're going to have to look for all of these other things out there, and so you have to put as much detail as possible into the job ad and the description for them to understand the responsibilities that they will be taking on a daily basis, and be very upfront with that. You have one opportunity to set expectations with a new hire, and it is right when they start. So if you're lackadaisical or laissez-faire about the need to produce reporting on a daily basis, or track conversions, or account for the marketing dollars that you spent as to whether or not they actually produce something, then they're just going to go all over the place and think that they can just spend money and not have it produce anything. So questions that I like to ask, and Kelly, I'd love your input here. One of the big ones for me when hiring a marketing manager is I ask, what is the one campaign or project that you are most proud of? And I feel like this is a very telling question, because it shows you where their skill sets and their passions are. So can you tell me about a campaign or a project that you feel was your most successful or that you're most proud of? And almost like 9 times out of 10, I get, oh my gosh, I built this website and it was like so pretty, and like it was just functionally beautiful, and look at all this like awesome stuff that it does, and does this video over here and it does this over here. And at no time during that conversation do they ever talk about conversions, ever. And this is really where you separate the best of breed marketing managers from people who say they do marketing. Because at the end of the day, if a website looks functionally like the most beautiful thing ever, but no lead forms are getting completed or no appointments are being set, then this is not going to work out. It shows you that explanation of their favorite project or their favorite campaign gives you insight into where they like to spend their time and what they determine to be the definition of success. So, and then also just a couple of things that I personally use is I give them a test project. So let's say that we find 2 or 3 really awesome candidates. I give them a test project to see how they do. I'm not looking for being able to use that material as completed advertising work that I can go out and take to market. I'm looking to test their skill set, and I'm also looking to see if they ask questions, if they come up with excuses or reasons. Like I had one guy that gave this like crazy excuse that he couldn't, and gave him like logins to some software to create a simple landing page. And he came back to me and said that he had to like download it onto his computer, and that like the hard drive crashed, and then he had to like rebuild his machine, and like went through this long story about how he couldn't get it done. And I was like, that functions in a web browser. So all of that is a lie and you're disqualified. So it's like you kind of, between these two things of giving them a question where they answer what their most passionate or successful campaign was, gives you insight into where they spend their time, and then that test project kind of vets out who can actually do it from, quite honestly, the liars. And so those are the 2 that I've really relied on throughout my career to find the right people. Kelly, where do you start with this task?
Yeah, so I would start off with first and foremost, do you like to read and write? That's one that I came across someone who said, "Oh, I love to write, but I hate reading. I never read." And automatically I was like, nope, you're not going to work. Because if you are not someone who reads or likes to consume content, then you probably shouldn't be creating content. I would definitely ask if they have managed a marketing budget before and the size of that marketing budget. This is a great question to ask because you want them to either have A, managed budget before, and B, hopefully that budget would match what your marketing budget would be. Because if you have someone come in who's managed $1 million marketing budget and you have $50,000 for that year, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve for both of you there. And they may not be happy managing that small budget. So it's good to be upfront about that and ask that. Ask someone if they have been a sole marketing person before, especially if you're only hiring, of course, if you're only hiring one person, because it's a really different experience to be the only marketing person on a team. You have to be able to jump in and do a lot of different things and do more learning than you would if you were on a team of, with 4 other marketing people. I would also ask them how they get their marketing information, how they learn, and then who do they follow in their field, kind of who inspires them.
Great. And we do have a question from the audience as well. How crucial is prior marketing experience in a law firm?
I would say as long as they are open to learning ethical boundaries and the marketing ethics for your state, I don't think that it is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and I would echo that. To me, it's the results-oriented, driven. I serve as kind of like a CMO advisor, and for some of my clients who are in the legal technology field, and they will oftentimes have like a really great team in-house, and they just need some additional education about the space. So if you have that education, whether it's, for a law firm or you have access to resources like thought leaders or people that they can have lunch with or do calls with that have marketing experience working on behalf of a firm, that can sometimes supplement that educational gap. So if they have the background, because it's looking for a unicorn, right? So if they have the digital marketing chops, if they have the social media and the writing skills, if they've got, 4 out of those 5 pieces, then look outside for opportunities where you can invest in or couple them with a mentor that can help, fill in that gap, because it is very difficult to find somebody who has absolutely everything on your list. You try to get as close to that as possible and then supplement.
Yeah, one additional piece to that is look at their previous experience, and if they have more, tech startup, fun agency, really quirky things on their resume, you need to look and see whether they are able to go into your area of practice and fit in well there, because the legal field is very different than your standard typical marketing or advertising agency.
Yeah, and there is a lot of that. I can't tell you how many marketing managers, I'm sure you've seen them, that come out of a tech startup who was, got a bunch of funding and then could never sell anything, which is also indicative of how good that marketing manager was, or a salesperson, and then they're back out on the market because they got laid off because the company doesn't exist anymore. And that's a very, common, reasonable, line item for like why I'm back on the market in 6 months or 2 years, but it also means that I probably lit a bunch of money on fire and it didn't turn into anything, and then the company went under. So, just heads up on those tech startups. I'm glad that you brought that up, because there's so many people in the market right now that are coming from a situation like that. Okay, So training, initial and ongoing education. So kind of just a nice jump from what we were talking about with the interviewing. They don't always know your world. And so some of the other ways that I've been able to train for any role, whether it's like a paralegal, an intake person, this is really important for anybody who's going to be talking to prospects or attracting prospects to the firm. I am a huge advocate for job shadowing and ride-alongs, having them go with an attorney if it's appropriate to a courthouse to sit in on a client intake meeting, to continue to invest in them. I'm actually sending one of my employees today an audiobook that I would like her to read, podcasts and webinars that get them ingrained and involved in the overall just knowledge and experience of what it's like inside of a law firm. You mentioned podcasts and webinars. I love the name of yours, which is clienting. It's up to you to fill in those gaps. They don't know what they don't know, right? So continuing to invest in this employee, because if you invest in them and they do well in their role, it's going to mean return on that investment for you in a big way.
Yeah. And I would say potentially budget for at least one marketing conference annually. Those are really helpful to let someone learn in the marketing space and kind of download a ton of information and take it back to their job and then put those things in place. And then LinkedIn and Google both have really great learning programs that can supplement that information and give you really technical day-to-day job advice.
Yeah, AdWords certification, analytics certification, these are very they're very reasonable to have an employee go through, and they pay off in spades. It also improves and it invests and improves in the employee's outlook, because they know that they're with an employer who values education. So tools, resources, and costs. And this is, something that I think a lot of people, business people in general, underestimate. Hiring a marketing manager, or hiring a VP of marketing, or hiring a liaison, or however you want to call the role for your business, is only the first part of the expense. That salary when they walk in the door doesn't cover all the things that they need to be successful. So they might come with the skill set, but you still need marketing software, social media software, landing page and website tools, and then of course case management, CRM, and or some way to do lead tracking, because you have to have not only the software to handle the marketing, to manage it, to report on it, but then also that lead tracking piece in the back end. And I know you've got a list of tools and resources that you use on a regular basis. Do you want to run through a few of those?
Yeah, so for design, I regularly use Adobe Suite, mostly Adobe Illustrator, and to get one of those is $69 a month. So that cost is can add up there. I also use Canva and Venngage, which are just online design platforms to make videos. I really think that video is a great thing to invest in, and Wistia is a great website. Biteable, promo.ly is another good one for short videos, Powtoons, and all of these things are anywhere from $10 to $100 a month, and so those things can end up adding up very quickly. Hootsuite is great for social media post planning, automating all of those posts so somebody's not managing that stuff day to day for your website. For me, WordPress is the ideal option. Squarespace is a good second best option to plug and play your website together. And then HubSpot is also another marketing automation and marketing management, CRM, landing page, kind of all of those things combined into one service that is an additional cost that you could look at getting that. And then, of course, your ad budget. in there. And this depends greatly on the size of the firm, how competitive your market is, and then whether you want to do just Facebook and Instagram ads, Google ads, or kind of hit everything all at once.
Excellent. And then, just kind of on that topic of a, ad budget, I always say that depending upon how much the firm wants to grow or how aggressive they want to be, that anywhere from between 10 to 30% of every case fee should be reinvested in the marketing of the firm. And then again, goes back to what's the revenue, and what's the revenue of the firm that you're looking at, what's the distribution amongst partners, what's the overall commitment to growth of reinvesting those dollar amounts. And then we have a couple questions beyond that. So that's just what you need software and budget wise to really take on marketing in-house and be serious about it. Question from the audience is recommendations for a CRM for a solo or a small firm. If you're looking for just a CRM to manage leads, Lexicata is the leading provider in the industry. I'll be happy to email you and include out in the notes from today just a link to our review of Lexicata. They actually just came out with a new version. You can use case management software to do your lead tracking. If you're using those marketing automation tools like HubSpot, you mentioned, is a great one. That's going to have built-in CRM tools for you as well. So I think, for the person who's asking this question, I'd be happy to do a follow-up consult on the software side with you for free, just to kind of talk through some of those options. I'll send you a link to my calendar afterwards. Next, which kind of rounds out the cost portion of bringing this marketing manager role in-house, is compensation. And this is something that I'm really passionate about because it is a profit generating role, right? And for a marketing manager, you've got an initial base salary that you have to provide to them, but everything that they do should be tied to performance. Everything that they do should be tied to quality scoring and case conversion. Because you can make it rain and you can have a pretty website, but at the end of the day, if those marketing dollars are not helping to grow the firm and hit the goals, or the goals of the employee and the goals of the business are not aligned, then that's going to be a really difficult thing to continue to support. That's going to be a line item, on your budget or on your payroll that you're going to look at and wonder where you're getting the money back out of. And it's something where if marketing is not appropriately managed, the money evaporates like water. I mean, it just goes. And so having the KPIs and having the quality score for leads and doing the tracking, I prefer to have a performance-based, where it's a base salary, and if they hit certain goals, they get rewarded financially. This keeps them working towards the same numbers that everybody else is working towards. It makes them invested in the sales process. They will go and they will ask how the leads are turning out. Are they converting into cases? How did that phone call go? They all of a sudden have a vested interest. And so compensation plus performance-based incentives, in my opinion, are the way to go. And Kelly, I would love, to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm right in line with that as well. And I also want to say, if you get someone who balks at the idea that they have part of their salary or incentives based on performance, that means that they're not sure they can do the job either. So probably not someone that you want to hire. And maybe you right away would ask why they think that before just crossing them off your list. But that definitely would be a red flag for me. Yeah. And salary can vary so widely. If you only need a part-time person to start off with, I would definitely consider that, and that's really going to change the outlook on your cost there. You could go the recent graduate route. Part-time, you could do a contract worker and hire someone through Fiverr or Upwork to get things started, and then maybe have a sort of trial basis where let's try this for 3 to 6 months, see how it goes, and then we'll bring you on board full time, and can go up from there.
Yeah. And I completely agree, run the other way if they don't think that, they can hit those numbers, because it's very concerning. It's one thing to adjust numbers and then to give them like a ramp up period where, okay, this is the number of appointments that I need to see in month 1, month 2, month 3, so that you give them a little time to learn. And you watch when they're, if they're over achieving their goal, then maybe we need to make it a little bit harder, right? So, and if they're falling way, way short, like let's, try and figure out what the problem is there. So compensation and performance-based incentives are that last piece of cost. You created for us today a really great infographic that I'm going to put up. We're at the top of the hour. So this is going to be included in the post-show notes and resources that everybody will be available to listen to the recording, to share it with other people on your team, to share it with other colleagues. And this is, what is the difference between a marketing manager in-house and having that role be in an agency. And Kelly, thank you so much for putting this together. This is a really great resource. I think one of the points that I want to hammer home today is, if you're working with an agency, including a marketing manager on your staff is going to help that relationship flourish and grow. Working with any vendor, I am a firm believer that you get in what you get out of that relationship, what you put into it, right? So if you have somebody who's dedicating time, energy, effort, resources to making the most out of that relationship and getting it to work, you're going to see that return. And if you can't provide that in-house and you aren't able to have all the resources and the training and everything else, then the agency route might actually be a better option for you. So if the combination of all of those things, the salary, the benefits, the marketing budget, level of experience required, constant, training and education, if that's outside of the realm of what you're comfortable with, then speaking with someone on, at an agency, and we've got some great options for you, Attorneys Think, and then also in the Legal Technology Buyer's Guide, there's a few other agencies that are specific to law firms. Shop your options, because if you can't dedicate the time to managing somebody in-house, it's going to be very difficult for you to know when they are not performing, or it'll be too late and your marketing budget will be spent with no return, and now you have someone that you potentially have to let go. So it's a very serious step that can work out really, really well, or it can go sideways. So both Kelly and I thank everybody so much for attending today. It's been a jam-packed hour of tons of information. Kelly is a resident marketing director at Attorneys Think, who is one of our Buyer's Guide selected providers. They work specifically with law firms. And you can reach her at the contact information available on the screen here. I encourage everybody to reach out if they do have questions or they would like to talk to Kelly about Attorneys Think services. You can find me at Lex Tech Review. I'm always willing to do free consults on anything related to legal technology, growing your small firm, finding that marketing agency that might be a good fit for you if you're going to go that route, or just in general law practice management best practices. Thanks again to everybody who shared their day with us. Kelly, thank you for sharing all of your information and background, and just in general had a great time presenting with you today. And I'll see you very soon at ABA Tech Show in person.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thanks, Chelsea, and thanks everyone else for listening.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Check out the list of webinars available from Lex Tech Review on our homepage on the right-hand side. Have a great rest of your day.